What's going on, Austin? My name's Randy White and I'm your local Austin realtor. I got my sweet new studio set up back here. I'm also doing great at my new brokerage, Spyglass Realty, but I'm just giving you guys the same great content. And today's topic is gonna be, you guessed it, why we're not in a housing bubble. Why do I keep talking about this? Because you guys can't seem to let it go. So, let's kick it.
I'm going down to Austin, Texas. I'm going down to save my soul.
All right, up first, I've got a graph that shows us housing appreciation since World War II. Why World War II? Because that's going to be the beginning of modern day housing market when all the wonderful veterans came home and the GI Bill sent them out there to go buy some houses. And as you can see, housing appreciation really just continues to always go up, except for that pesky time after 2006. And why did it go down after 2006? Two main reasons, one being the ninja loans that were going on back then. What's a ninja loan? We talked about this on my video on Monday when I had Alejandro Juarez on my Mortgage Mondays series. Check it out if you're not already. And he told us that those loans were basically being built out of nothing. You did not need to verify assets. You barely need to verify who you were. So lots of really poorly written loans that had no financial backing to them. The second main reason is going to be that people used their homes like ATM machines and they kept cashing out the money. So their home has no equity, they're out there buying jet skis and vacations, and then the world ended. So there was no equity left in their house and they're upside down and they have to walk away from it, thus creating a market full of distressed properties, approximately 9 million to be exact. Now maybe you're getting into this video and you're thinking, you know, Randy, who are you anyway? I mean, why should we really be listening to some nobody on YouTube? Okay, well, how about we take a look at 7 major forecasters not predicting any drop in value. In fact, they've all been predicting anywhere from 6 to 10% home price appreciation for this year. They started out the year with thinking 5.5%, and then as the year progressed and we got kind of nuts there in early spring, they really started to lean on the heavier side of thinking, oh, maybe more than 5.5%, maybe more like 8 to 10. So again, when you average everybody's forecasts out, all 7 of them, we're sitting at about a 9% appreciation expectancy for this year. All right, so it's looking like a trajectory from everybody that homes are going to continue to appreciate for this year. So what about all those loans that went into forbearance during COVID? I mean, are those going to be a huge problem? I know that a lot of you guys are pointing your finger at those people. So let's take a look at a graph that I have for that. At the height of it, we had about 5% of total mortgages went into forbearance, and we are now down to just about under 700,000 total loans still in forbearance. So this is basically a non-issue at this point. And maybe you want to know what's happening to the loans once they come out of forbearance. You know, are they having trouble? Was it resolved? I got a graph for that. So you can see it's looking pretty good. You got 37% were just paid in full. Way to go, people. Then you got 44% that worked out a plan. They were a little bit, you know, in trouble. They have ways to work around, they refinance, and so the lender and the borrower work together and they have a plan in place. Then you got 18% of people that don't have a plan put in place yet or are unfortunately on their way to a short sale or a deed in lieu of repayment plan. But mostly what you can see here is that it's a very tiny number of people coming out of forbearance because we're kind of all done with that. And then when they do come out of forbearance, it's actually a healthy balance of people being able to handle it. Then, in addition to all that, for those people that don't have a plan yet, they have equity in their home because everybody's homes appreciated way too much the last couple of years. So there's always that plan of you can take it to market and that thing is going to get scooped up in just one weekend. So I want to go back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video, which is that the financial crisis of 2008 was turned on by loose lending standards. They thought that they could put together A loans and mix them in with some B loans, and then nobody would notice how many poorly written B loans were out there, but we did notice, and then we all fell apart. So I want to show a neat graph that I have where you get to take a look at the 2 main components of how risky a loan can be. And that's going to be product risk and borrower risk. So product risk is going to be those ninja loans, those crazy suckers where they weren't checking income and verifying your job and everything like that. And that has basically been eliminated as time went on and we put that in the past. Borrower risk is going to be high credit scores, your ability to pay your mortgage back, and so that has also been greatly diminished because of the strict lending standards. You really do have to apply and strictly qualify for these loans before you are granted access to that money. So that's kind of the story of mortgages, right? And the timeline and where we're at today. And so what it has actually led us to is a new time where foreclosures have really been greatly reduced. So here I've got a graph that shows us foreclosure activity and that we are at an all-time low. So you can see the housing crisis there with the red bars. That's over 9 million properties going into foreclosure. Wow, what a mess. And then the lending standards started to become strict. You have to really qualify and make sure that you can pay that loan back. People are getting their assets in line and being able to prove that they are good borrowers before getting that loan. And then we end up over in 2021 where we have the lowest foreclosure amount ever. Now, don't get snarky with me and say, oh, it's because of the moratorium. Like, okay, yes, of course, that is maybe why we are at this, very squeezed down level of 151,000. But the point that I'm trying to make is that you can see that trend coming from the housing crisis that everybody thinks that we're going back to, coming down, 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 down. As a trend, we are going away from having foreclosures because the lenders are strict about who they're going to give that money to. Let's dig into that a little bit further. We can take a look at lending standards and how they have become tighter. So this is going to be loans that were given out to credit scores that are below 620. And you can see that they were just giving them out in volume there between 2003 to 2007. And so then we realized, okay, that's enough of that. And now you have to have higher than a 620, and the amount of loans that are given out under 620 have greatly diminished. Do me a favor, if you like this content that I'm sharing with you, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button so that YouTube knows that I'm giving you guys good stuff. Another thing you can do for me is if you are somebody that bought during those years leading up to the housing crisis, whenever it was kind of loosey-goosey to get a home loan, and then you've also now bought a home in today's lending standards, drop a comment below and talk about kind of the difference of comparison of how that process goes. Do you find it to be way more difficult to apply for a loan these days compared to back then, leading up to that crisis? Let's hear from you. Another graph that I want to show you about these stricter lending standards is going to be just less ARMs. Those sneaky bastards, right? Now, they're actually not bad loans. They're just misused, adjustable rate mortgages. And they were getting dealt out everywhere. You can see that we're at about 34 to 37% of the loans were ARM loans, and I wonder how many of those people really understood what they were signing up for. So now we have tickered down to an all-time low. 1.7% of all mortgages are an ARM. Now, as interest rates continue to rise, we will probably see a comeback of these ARM mortgages because, again, they're not bad loans. They're actually a rather good idea for some situations, and you just need to make sure that you understand what you're signing, and you need to make sure that it fits for what it is that you're looking for. So hopefully that information has helped you see that we just simply don't have the same structure in our loans that we did back then during the housing crisis. Now, another question that comes up is, as inflation continues, people are going to start not being able to afford their housing payment and their mortgages. So I have a pretty interesting study that I can share with you to kind of ease some concerns on that. So the Fed shows household debt service ratio for mortgages as a percentage of disposable personal income. And we are at 3.8% today compared to 7.2% in 2007. I mean, we're actually even lower than where we were in 1991 at 6.2%. So while inflation is certainly a cause for concern, and I'm spending way too much on gas and milk, debt service itself is just not the culprit here at this time. The last graph that I want to share with you guys before we call it a day on this is pretty interesting. It's showing the difference between an annual mortgage payment for cash out refinances and what that looked like during the housing crisis and what it looks like today. So you can see during that housing crisis, when you subtract you take the original annual mortgage payment and then you subtract the new cash out refinance payment, that would be the difference between those two. Outstanding. That is very far apart from each other. Then you go into 2020 and 2021 and you're seeing $66, $34. And so what this is telling us is that people are simply not using their homes like an ATM. Don't do that. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me today. If you like my content, please like my videos so that YouTube knows that you're enjoying it. I'm making sure to get more videos out to you every week, and I'll actually be back as soon as tomorrow with the Real Estate Lab. Thank you so much.
I'm going down to Austin, Texas. I'm going down to save my soul.